The given text is an engaging narrative. I will paraphrase in a similarly engaging and unique style in English, focusing on clarity and impact. A morning in Northwood. A walk in the park turns nightmare. Thursday morning dawned clear and crisp in Northwood, promising a perfect day for Isabella Bella Rossi Jones. A 32-year-old freelance graphic designer, Bella found solace and inspiration in her solo hikes through Redwood Creek State Park. The scent of pine and damp earth filled the air as she hummed a cheerful tune, capturing moments of nature's beauty with her smartphone. A mushroom here, a wildflower there. With her healthy tan and radiant smile, inherited from her Italian father, Bella radiated youthful energy. She felt utterly at peace, connected to nature, and safe in her familiar city. But that tranquility, fragile as a morning mist, was about to be shattered. The monsters in blue. Meanwhile, on a remote dirt road in the same park, Officer Phil Granger, a 40-year-old, 15-year veteran of the force, yawned with a deep-seated resentment. He hated morning shifts, especially patrolling this vast, dreary park. Granger, lazy and spiteful, felt left behind by the new system, and particularly by the reforms implemented by Chief Jones, a younger black man. His usual routine involved finding a secluded spot, turning off his radio, and sleeping through his shift. Sitting beside him was 23-year-old rookie officer Kevin Parrish. Parrish, fresh out of the academy, was a justice buff, but too shy and desperate for acceptance to challenge Granger. He often remained silent, doing whatever Granger commanded, telling himself it was a way to survive. "This is so boring," Granger grumbled, tapping a rhythm on the steering wheel. "Nothing happens in this corner. Just stray dog patrol and cheating lovers. What a waste of my talents." As if in answer, as their patrol car rounded a bend, they spotted Bella. She was bent over, intently photographing something on the ground. Granger's dull eyes lit up with a sick gleam. "Look, apprentice," he nudged Parrish. "A girl's lost. Doesn't look like she's from around here. Let's see if we can have some fun." A despicable encounter. Granger stopped the car, the crunch of gravel under the tires making Bella look up in surprise. 2 officers approached. At first, she smiled, expecting a routine safety check. "Hello," Granger began, his tone patronizing, his eyes raking over her. "Walking alone in the woods. It's dangerous. Did you know there have been reports of coyotes in this area?" "Hello, officers," Bella replied politely, unfazed. "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. I'm quite familiar with the trails around here." Her confidence seemed to irk Granger. He wanted to see fear, dependence. Noticing her tan, her dark hair, and her features, his prejudiced mind quickly jumped to a conclusion. "Familiar?" he sneered. "You don't look like you're from around here. Where are you from? California, south of the border?" He winked at Parrish, who offered only a weak, uncomfortable smile. "Let me see your ID." Bella was taken aback. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not in the habit of carrying my wallet when I hike. It's inconvenient, but I have my phone. I can show you a picture of my driver's license. I'm Isabella Rossi Jones, a resident of Northwood." The name Rossi only fueled Granger's prejudice. He laughed, a contemptuous, mocking sound. He turned to Parrish, who stood uncomfortably silent, avoiding Bella's gaze. "Hear that, apprentice? She didn't have a wallet. Classic excuse. And Rossi? She must be some illegal immigrant hiding in the woods. We must have done a great job." He turned back to Bella, his hatred now undisguised. He deliberately drew out each word, as if speaking to someone mentally challenged. "Hey, girl, we need to see real papers, not photos. Understand?" By this point, Bella knew this was no ordinary encounter. A cold dread seeped into her stomach. This was blatant abuse of power, undisguised discrimination. "Officers, I think there's a huge misunderstanding here," she said, her voice straining but firm. "Your attitude is unacceptable. My husband is—" "Your husband—" Granger interrupted rudely, waving her hand away. "Don't bring your husband into this. He must be some kind of bum, right? Or an illegal immigrant like you. Don't scare me." He gestured to Parrish. "She doesn't seem to be cooperating. Maybe we need to teach her a lesson about respecting American law." Bella took a step back, her heart pounding. You have no right to do this. This is harassment. I will report this. Report. Granger scoffed. I have the authority. I have the badge. What do you have? He stepped forward and seized Bella's arm. His grip, like an iron vice, caused her to shudder with pain and fear. He began to drag her off the familiar path, deeper into the dense forest where no one could see. Parrish, his face pale with worry, hurried after him, his conscience screaming but his fear choking it. What are you doing? Let me go. You're breaking the law. Bella screamed, struggling in vain against Granger's strength and Parrish's cowardly complicity. They dragged her about 50 yards into the woods, to a secluded spot hidden by dense undergrowth. They stopped before an ancient, gnarled oak, a silent witness to countless seasons, now about to witness a crime. Granger pushed Bella hard against the tree trunk. He pulled out a pair of shiny handcuffs from his holster, turning them over with amusement. Today's shift is boring, he said with a wicked smile, reveling in Bella's fear. Let's play a little game. We're going to handcuff you to this tree. If you're smart enough, you'll get out before dark. Consider a free survival test from a Northwood Police Department for uninvited guests. Bella was overcome with terror. This couldn't be real. Are you crazy? This is kidnapping. This is a felony. You will pay for this. I swear. Granger laughed, his sound scaring nearby birds. He was amused by her defiance. Payback? Who would believe like you? Your word against the word of two brave police officers on duty. Good luck. He turned to Parrish, his voice commanding. Now, apprentice, hold her hands. Don't just stand there like a statue, or do you want to be cuffed with her? The threat worked. Parrish, trembling, stepped forward and held Bella's arms firmly as Granger twisted them behind the tree trunk and locked the cuffs with a dry click. The sound was like the slamming of a door to hope. And with that, the initial scene unfolds. Granger and Parrish walked away, their laughter fading, leaving Bella handcuffed to the tree, alone with the eerie silence of the forest and the crushing monster of despair. A glimmer of hope in the darkness. Tears of rage and fear welled in Bella's eyes, streaming down her cheeks, but only for a few seconds. Bella was strong. She was David Jones's wife. She knew crying and panicking wouldn't help. She had to think. She had to act. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She tried to pull her hands free, but the metal cuffs only tightened, causing painful, bleeding cuts. It was no use. She looked around. No one. No sound but the wind rustling through the leaves. She screamed until her voice was hoarse, but her cries were swallowed by the dense foliage, weak and hopeless. Then she remembered her backpack. It was still on her back, wedged between her and the tree. She began to rub her back against the rough trunk, hoping to dislodge it. The rough bark scratched her skin through her thin shirt, but she ignored the pain. After a few minutes of agonizing effort, the backpack slid off her shoulders and fell to the ground. A small glimmer of hope, but it remained closed. She thought again. The phone. It was in the mesh pocket on the side of her backpack. She dropped to her knees, tried to turn the backpack around with her heels, a difficult task with her hands cuffed behind her back. It took several tries, sweat pouring down her forehead, and she almost gave up, but then, success! The backpack turned over. She saw her blue phone, nestled in the mesh pocket. Now came the hard part. Handcuffed behind her back, she had to figure out how to use it. She lay on her side, twisting so hard her joints cracked. She stretched the fingertips of her right hand as far as she could toward the phone, just a few more centimeters. Please, please, she whispered through clenched teeth. Finally, after much effort, her fingertips touched the home button. The screen lit up. She remembered she had set up voice calling. It was her only hope. With all her remaining strength, she shouted, her voice hoarse and shaking with tension and exhaustion, "Hey, Siri, call my husband." There was a moment of suffocating silence. Her heart stopped. Was it working? Was there enough battery? Then she heard a familiar mechanical voice, a sound that had never sounded so sweet, calling, "My husband," the chief's fury. About 15 minutes away, at Northwood Police Department headquarters, Chief David Jones was presiding over a tense quarterly budget meeting with his captains. A tall, burly African-American man, 42, David possessed a stern, even-handed demeanor that had propelled him through the ranks. He was dedicated to changing the department's image and rebuilding community trust, a challenging task, especially given the implicit resistance from old guard officers like Granger. As the patrol captain presented dry numbers, David's personal phone on the conference table vibrated. The screen lit up with the words and heart emoji he had set for his wife. My Bella Red Heart. He glanced at it, frowned slightly, and pressed the reject button. Bella knew his schedule. She would never call at this hour unless it was truly urgent. But immediately, the phone vibrated again. Still my Bella Red Heart. A cold feeling of unease ran down David's spine. Something was wrong. He stood up abruptly, cutting off the captain. Excuse me, gentlemen. Give me a moment. Go ahead. He walked quickly into the deserted hallway and picked up, trying to keep his voice casual. Bella, are you okay? I'm in a meeting. On the other end of the line was not his wife's usual cheerful voice. It was a ragged, panicked whisper, barely audible. David, I'm at Redwood Creek, near the Northern Trail. I'm handcuffed to a tree. 2 of your officers, Granger and Parrish, they did this. David Jones's world stopped spinning. His wife's words were like shards of glass stabbing into his brain. Handcuffed to a tree. Granger and Parrish. His 2 officers. Anger and fear surged through him, a primal fury he had never felt before. The composure of a chief was gone, replaced by the panic of a husband. He didn't waste a second. He ran back into the conference room, where everyone stared at him in confusion. He slammed everything on the table, sending papers flying. Meeting over. All team leaders. Return to command room immediately. He rushed to the central control room, his voice booming over the intercom, steely and authoritative, startling all the staff. Operator, emergency alert. Locate the GPS location of this phone number immediately. Mobilize full SWAT team. Location, Redwood Creek National Park. Then he picked up his radio, his announcement blaring across all frequencies, stunning every officer on duty across the city. All units, this is Chief Jones. High alert. The chief's wife is in danger in Redwood Creek Park. The suspect are Officer Phil Granger and Officer Kevin Parrish. Block all exits from the park. Arrest on sight. I repeat, arrest on sight. This is not a drill. Justice is swift. Meanwhile, Granger and Parrish were leisurely driving out of the park. Granger was whistling a lopsided tune, pleased with himself for his joke. He felt he had taught an immigrant a lesson. Parrish sat silently, racked with guilt and fear. Suddenly, the radio in their car crackled with the angry voice of the chief. They heard the name of the park. They heard the description of a woman being attacked. And then they heard the fatal phrase that sealed their fate. The chief's wife. Parrish went deathly white. He turned to Granger, his voice shaking and stammering. Granger, no, it can't be that woman. She said her husband was, and the name Rossi Jones. Jones. God Jones. Granger stiffened too, the smile on his lips frozen. He remembered Bella's words, which he had dismissed with contempt. He remembered the double name she had given him. He hadn't believed it. Racial prejudice had blinded him. He couldn't imagine Chief Jones, a black man, having a white wife with Italian features. The thought was too complicated for his simple, hateful mind. No, it can't be, he muttered, trying to cling to denial. A coincidence? It must be a stupid coincidence. But it was too late for denial. Right in front of them at the turnoff to highway, 3 black SUVs from the task force pulled up, lights flashing, sirens blaring, blocking their exit. The door of the lead vehicle swung open. Chief David Jones stepped out, his face no longer that of a calm leader, but that of a husband, a man on the verge of explosive rage. David marched straight toward Granger and Parrish's car, his hand on the gun at his side. His voice roared, echoing to the woods, a roar of pain and anger. Get out of the car. Hands on your head now. Granger and Parrish stepped shakily out of the car, their hands in the air like criminals caught red-handed. David stepped forward, standing in front of Granger, his eyes burning into the officer. "Where's my wife?" he asked, his voice low and menacing. Each were a hammer blow. Granger stuttered, trying to conjure a pathetic excuse in his panic. "Sir, it was just a joke, sir. A misunderstanding. We were going back to release her." "Really? Answer my question." David roared, his shout making both cops jump. "Where is she?" Parrish, terrified, could no longer contain himself. He burst into tears and pointed shakily toward the woods they had just left. "There, by the big oak tree near the stream." That was all David needed to know. He turned to the Special Forces officers, who looked at his two colleagues with disdain. "Cuff them. Take their weapons, their badges. Take them to the station. Keep them in separate cells. Don't let them talk to anyone." Then he and a small team rushed into the woods in the direction Parrish had pointed. His heart pounded in his chest. He called out to his wife, "Bella! Bella, it's me." Each second felt like a century. Finally, they found her. Bella was still handcuffed to the tree, looking small and exhausted, her clothes dirty, her wrists bloody, but her eyes lit up when she saw her husband. The moment David pulled the key, released the cold handcuffs from his wife's wrists, and held her close, it was an image of release, of love, of an unspoken oath of justice. He knelt, held her, murmured apologies and comforts, his anger giving way to relief and infinite sorrow. The fallout and a message of hope. After ensuring Bella was taken care of by paramedics and safely returned home, David returned to the police station, his face stone cold. He headed straight to the holding area where Granger and Parrish were being kept separately. He stood in front of Granger's cell, looking through the bars at his wife's tormentor. Granger cowered under his gaze. "Phil Granger, Kevin Parrish," David said, his voice cold and emotionless. "You are both hereby suspended without pay and face a criminal investigation for kidnapping, third-degree assault, abuse of power, violation of civil rights, and gross violation of your oath of office. You have the right to remain silent. And for God's sake, I advise you to do so." The fallout came as quickly and devastatingly as a hurricane. With Isabella's irrefutable testimony, GPS data from the patrol car and phone, and Parrish's tearful confession, Granger and Parrish had no chance to defend their actions. They were dishonorably discharged from the Northwood Police Department. Faced with serious criminal charges, they were sentenced to years in prison. Their careers, their lives, and their freedoms were completely destroyed by a cruel and stupid prank, an act of laziness, prejudice, and a corruption of power. The incident caused a media storm in Northwood. Police Chief David Jones faced one of the biggest crises of his career. But rather than cover up or downplay the incident, he chose complete transparency. He held a press conference, publicly condemning the actions of the two officers, calling them a disgrace to the department and traitors to the public trust. He pledged to root out similar bad apples in his force. He did not identify his wife to protect her privacy, saying only that the victim was a member of my family, a citizen they were supposed to protect. David Jones's decisive and forthright action ironically cemented his status as a strong, fair, and uncompromising leader. It sent a clear message to the entire police department and community. No one, not even those in uniform, is above the law. A few months later, Bella opened her first solo art show. The show was called Scars of the Forest. The centerpiece of the gallery was a haunting installation called Badges and Shackles. The piece depicted a small oak tree stump, and shackled to it was not a person, but a human heart, intricately carved out of wood with cracks and scratches where the shackles had tightened. Above it, a silver police badge hung, casting a dark, distorted shadow over the heart. David stood beside his wife, holding her hand tightly. He looked at the work, then at his wife, the strong woman who had turned her pain and trauma into art, into a wake-up call. They had walked through a nightmare together, and they had turned it into a message of hope, of healing, and of the never-ending fight for justice. This story shows how power in the hands of the ignorant, lazy, and prejudiced can become a dangerous weapon capable of destroying lives for a moment's amusement. It is a reminder that cruelty is not always loud. Sometimes it hides behind boredom and a badge, but also affirms an unshakable truth. No one is above the law forever. Justice is sometimes meted out in a very direct and bitter way to those who abuse power, especially when they're foolish enough to accidentally pick a fight with a person they should least be messing with. Reflecting on the outcome, the punishment for Officer Granger and Officer Parrish, dishonorable discharge, years in prison, and the destruction of their careers and freedoms, was severe. Asterisk is enough of a deterrent for individuals contemplating such acts. The consequences demonstrated here, loss of job, freedom, reputation, are certainly a strong deterrent. However, systemic issues of prejudice and abuse of power often require broader, ongoing reform beyond individual punishments to truly prevent recurrence. The story itself suggests Granger felt left behind by the new system, implying a deeper cultural issue within the department that Chief Jones was trying to address. Asterisk is Chief David Jones. Would you have handled this crisis so publicly or try to handle it more quietly to avoid affecting the police department? Chief Jones's decision to handle this crisis with complete transparency was strategically effective and ethically sound. Asterisk public handling, while it created a media storm, also allowed Chief Jones to publicly condemn the actions, reassure the community, and demonstrate his commitment to accountability. This likely rebuilt trust with the community faster than a quiet cover-up would have. It sent a clear message that such behavior would not be tolerated, which would also serve as an internal deterrent for other officers. Asterisk quiet handling. Attempting to handle it quietly might have protected the department's immediate reputation, but it would have likely fostered distrust within the community and among other officers. If the truth eventually leaked, which is common in such cases, the backlash would have been far more severe, potentially leading to widespread protests and a complete loss of confidence in the police force. Moreover, it would have undermined Chief Jones's own efforts to implement community relations reforms. In this scenario, Chief Jones's public and decisive action solidified his leadership and integrity, ultimately serving the department's long-term health and its relationship with the public. It turned a potential disaster into an opportunity for reform and renewed trust.